Hello and welcome. I'm Natalie MacDonald and you're watching Sydney Direct, where we bring you all of the very latest goings on Australia's financial markets. Now, today, construction growth has hit a 9-year high in September. That's according to a report by the Australian Industry Group. I'm talking next to their Director of Public Policy, Peter Byrne. Peter, firstly, thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciate your insight.
You're welcome.
Now, firstly, can you tell us the highlights perhaps and the lowlights of AI Group's construction index released today?
Sure. So it's another strong month for the index overall. Particularly strong was housing and apartment building. Commercial construction was also pretty strong, and we've seen a continuation of the easing off of engineering construction, and that's mainly due to the mining related projects coming off and less state-based infrastructure projects.
Now, there's been a lot of discourse of late regarding a potentially hot housing market. How has today's construction growth really indicate the confidence in the housing market at present?
It indicates that investors, developers are coming into the market in large numbers. There's a lot of activity going into housing and they're drawn in by the very attractive prices that they can get. So we would expect in a little while, a year or so, for large amounts of supply to be coming onto the market, and that may well ease off some of the pricing pressures, particularly in the apartment market.
Now, I'd just like to connect to AI Group's Performance of Services Index, which was released on Friday. Now, Friday's drop in the figure there sort of suggested that the hopes for a consumer-led upswing in Australia output could perhaps be a little premature right now. What level of correlation then is there between Friday's report and today's more construction-based report?
Sure. In the Services Index, the strong subsectors were consumer-facing sectors. So retail did pretty well, personal and recreational services did pretty well, and hospitality services also did pretty well. And they're all household-facing services. So together with the housing market, it suggests that there's a degree of confidence in that part of the market at least, perhaps less so in business end of the market. And maybe strong house prices are giving people confidence. They feel wealthier, they are wealthier on paper, and that might be helping them spend more and give them confidence in spending more. So the housing price bubble or surge that we're seeing at the moment might be fueling a bit of consumer confidence. More generally, we haven't seen a big flow through to manufacturing and services from the housing market. So generally you would expect the housing boom and a boom in construction of apartments and commercial facilities to be associated with an increase in manufacturing output for building materials and furniture, all the things that go with that sort of activity. But we haven't seen that yet. And similarly in services, we haven't seen the degree of flow through. So we aren't yet seeing the housing surge and the commercial construction surge giving rise to a much broader based growth across the economy.
Now, lastly, Peter, businesses had previously advocated positive market conditions. How does the weaker present Aussie dollar positioning really fall into that market evaluation? And similarly, is Q4 currency performance likely to further help or hinder, in fact?
Well, movements in the dollar are always a two-edged sword. So domestic producers benefit from a lower dollar because imports are more expensive, and if they're selling into export markets, it's easier to export when the dollar's lower. But importers and people selling imported goods or people using imported goods in production, their costs rise when the dollar falls. So there's always a swing and a roundabout when the dollar changes. But for domestic producers, and that's really where we've got to get more activity, because employment will be generated, and we really do need sources of growth as this mining boom retreats, and so we need manufacturing to pick up and we need a broader cross-section of the services sector to pick up. I think that the fall in the dollar will be overall beneficial, and further fall over the rest of this year would stimulate domestic production in those areas. Of course, it would also raise prices, and so the Reserve Bank would be keeping an eye on any signs of inflation that came from that fall in the dollar.
Peter, thank you very much for your comments today. Much appreciated.
You're very welcome, Natalie.
Our thanks there to the Australian Industry Group for their insight, and thank you, viewers, very much for watching. Coming up this week, I'm going to be talking to Shaw Stockbroking once more, and also Managing Director of Oanda, Australia and New Zealand, Lewis Cooper. For now, though, it's goodbye from me.